Hello, hello, hello to all my melanated family out there in YouTube world. My blood family, my African family, African American family, my nigger family, all my family out in the world. This is your boy Strong, emotionally strong, mentally strong, physically strong, coming back at you with another video. Hopefully, again, this is one of the videos to make you think. Hopefully it makes you change, that want to unify, stand together with your fellow brothers and sisters. Okay, so I was surfing YouTube the other day, maybe yesterday, and I seen this video with this black guy doing genealogy search for Queen Latifah, and he pulled her up and showed her where her family lineages come from, her ancestors, and they got it to a point to where he actually found a freedom letter. Well, first he was saying that she came from non-slaves, or like her family came from non-slaves, but in the same sentence he showed her a letter that was to one of her female ancestors when she was freed from slavery. So that was kind of crazy to me that he said she come from non-slave people, but then showed her a letter of a white man giving a freedom paper to one of her female ancestors. Therefore, her ancestors were enslaved before they got that freedom letter. But that's not the reason I'm making this video. So it was very heart-wrenching and heart-touching to her and maybe her family to see that actual letter where a white man said, from today, 17 something, the year 17 something, you are free, you're no longer a slave, and permitted this female not to be a slave anymore. And I'm thinking to myself that this lady probably was a hard-working lady. She probably had values and things she taught her family. She had ways she raised her kids. Just a regular way she lived her life when she was a slave. And then one day this white man give her a piece of paper and says she's free. And my assumption is she pretty much probably still had her values. She still probably was a hard worker. She probably still was a good mother and raised her kids to be good people and took care of the home and did all of these things that she did when she was a slave. In my opinion, and I didn't know this lady, it was way back in the 1700s, but so pretty much she just got permission from a white man not to be a slave anymore. I don't think it really changed her personality and her values and the way she raised her kids. So she was pretty much the same before that day and after that day in that sense. And back in the day, we used to have slaves that never got those letters. They ran and tried to free themselves from being a slave through like the Underground Railroad and things in hopes to be free and not be a slave anymore. And we probably had slaves that saw that and knew that and was telling on their fellow brothers and sisters in hopes that they will get one of those letters saying that, okay, you did good and we caught some slaves. Now we're going to give you your freedom and you're not a slave anymore. And they sat around and waited to get their letter not to be a slave anymore. We had brothers and sisters working in the cotton fields and the sunflower fields and all these fields being slaves, And after the day was over or night was over, they would go into these farmhouses and tents or whatever they lived in and eat the little pork, whatever the master didn't want. Pig wise, pig snout, pig intestines, pig feet. They would give them all the stuff they didn't want so they could eat, and they would be all in this little farm in the farmhouse eating these things, hoping one day that they would get this letter that would free them from being a slave. We also had the house niggers, the house slaves that was in the house that got to dress up in clothes, got to be inside, outside the heat, sleep in a bed, maybe had their own room, maybe slept in the basement. But they weren't outside, they weren't with the rest of the slaves. In hopes that one day they would get this letter from a white person saying that, hey, you are no longer a slave anymore. The in-house slave. And we continue to be a slave until supposedly a white man president gave us our letter of freedom and said we are free. We're not slaves anymore. That a white man freed us. We didn't free ourselves. We never fought to free ourselves. We never fought to free us. A white man gave us permission to be free. And we've never fought for it. We never realized that we have been free from the beginning. To know that we are free. We are human beings. We are not less than human beings. We have been human beings all our lives. But we still are waiting for a letter to say we are free people. We're not slaves anymore. Which brings us to current day right now. We mentally, they supposedly freed us and took us from to cotton fields and all of those fields from being slaves and put us into the industry, working in the industries for them. And supposedly freeing us physically, but really not, because we work every day to give us a paycheck. But they were smart. They made sure they gave us a paycheck. But when you was a slave, you didn't get a paycheck, but your food and room and board and all of this stuff was free. So you didn't get a paycheck. So now they take you out of the cotton fields and they put you into the industrial fields and they give you a small paycheck. But now they're not going to pay for your way of life. They're not going to pay for your food. They're not going to pay for how you work, your room and board. So the little bit of money they pay you, they charge you a whole lot of money for those things. So actually you are working for debt. You're actually working to create debt in yourself. You're not working for money. You owe money, even though you work. You might owe money to more than one person, even though you work, even though you're supposed to be free. Even though you're supposed to be free. So they took us out of the fields and put us in the industries, to be slaves in the industries, and to slave our mind with all of the bullshit they give us on our history, which is not our history. And Christopher Columbus discovered America and the power, and Jesus is white with blonde hair and blue eyes, and they are humans and we're less than humans. They enslaved our minds, and we are still waiting on a piece of paper from them, from somebody white, to say we are free before we believe we are free, all the way to this day and age. And we got our field slaves, the ones that's in the ghetto, the ones that's in the low poverty area, that's still not getting an education, they're still not making no money. It's still, you can go to some parts of America where they have it to where black people are paying $5 to $7 a month for rent, because they don't make, and it's hard for them to pay rent because they don't make money. And they look out for the white man to pay that or help them pay that every month, because they are slaves. We are still slaves. Then we got the richity, uppity slaves that make millions of dollars, and they're the in-house slaves now because they got $1 million. They got their own house, they got the nice clothes, they sleep inside, they get to eat the food. But you're still an in-house slave. You still know, no matter how much money you have, you still know that there's parts of the world or the country you cannot go into and partake in what they're partaking in, no matter how much money you have. Oprah Winfrey, Lil Wayne, Morgan Freeman. You guys can't go to a Bilderberg meeting. You can't go to a Bilderberg meeting. You can't go out there into the woods where they pray to this big owl and kill black babies and do all weird stuff with the black baby blood. You're not allowed, no matter how much money you have, you're not allowed to do that, because you are still an in-house slave. You're still an in-house slave, whether you believe it or not. Whatever your mental is, that's what you are. There's certain things you cannot do, no matter how much money no matter how many white fans you have, no matter how many white people follow you, there is still things you can't do. You can't go to the Rothschild mansion and walk around freely. You can't do that. It's not in you. You are an in-house slave, no matter how much money you have. Cardi B, All of you guys, you are in-house slaves. You still in here and in your heart waiting to receive your freedom papers. You're still waiting to receive your freedom papers. We're all still waiting to receive our freedom papers from our oppressors in the land we were oppressed in. Why don't we still live on plantations? We should still live on plantations. America is one big plantation. It's the land we were slaves in. All over, north, south, east, and west, we were slaves in that land. It was our plantation. Back in the day, it is still our plantation now. And me too, all of us, we are waiting for a white man to give us a piece of paper to say we are free to do what we want, to live a life that we want to live, have our own businesses, have our own land, create our own police force, create our own military, create our own form of income, create our own education to teach our own people. We are still waiting on that document from a white person to say we are allowed to do that. 2020. We still live on a plantation. We have a voting system or new vote that's coming up in 2020 November, and supposedly the only two choices they're promoting are two white men. When in reality, legally, we can vote for anyone we want, anyone in the country that is over a certain age that is a citizen. We can vote for it. You can vote for your mother if you want to. You can vote for your uncle if you want. You can write them in the ballot and vote for your uncle. And if you get enough people to follow you and vote for your uncle will be president. But the brainwashing, the slavery mentality we have, everybody's like, oh, we only have these two choices. And not only that, more than 60% of America don't agree with either one of those choices, but we tell ourselves, oh, I'm going to vote for the lesser two evils. Two evils? We're voting between two evils? We say that to each other. We're voting between two evils. What kind of sense does that make? We're still waiting on the documentation of one of them to say, here you go, black people. You can finally have an area and we won't mess with you. Or you can finally invest and have whatever we're looking for. We're waiting on permission to be a free slave in 2020. And a lot of my brothers and sisters think you are free already because you got a job, you got your own house, you make your own money. But once again, you owe somebody. You owe somebody, and if you don't owe no one, it's still places you know you can't go. It's still things you know you cannot do, no matter how much money you own, no matter how many houses you own. We are still waiting on a white man to give us a piece of paper to say we are free. We are free to live as human beings in 2020. Think about that. Think about that. That's why are we still waiting for a slip of paper to say we are free? Why are we still waiting on somebody outside our nation to allow us to be free? To recognize us as being people? Why? Why are we waiting on that? Why? We are still slaves today. We are still slave-minded today. We are still in the plantation of America, all the states. We are still living on the same land that we were slaves in. We're still living on a plantation. We still are waiting for that hope and hopes that one day, they give us that piece of paper saying we are free. That's not going to change you. You're still going to have the same values you have today that you have when they give you that piece of paper. You're still going to have the same morals you have today than after they give you that piece of paper. You're still going to raise your kids on the beliefs and the values and all of those things that you're raising them on now after you get that piece of paper. So there will be no difference in you. They cannot change you. They cannot let you be free. They cannot tell you you are free. You are either free or you're not. That is your decision. That is your choice. It is no one else's choice but yours. To all my brothers and sisters. To all my brothers and sisters, much love. And I hope in none of my videos you guys think I am talking down to you, because I put myself in that saying, I'm African American, I'm treated like a nigger too, just like you are. Waiting for a piece of paper to say I'm free. We all are. We are still slaves in the plantation of America, in hopes and wishing and praying to the Most High that something or someone else frees us when we have the power in ourselves. Individually, you have the power in yourself. As a nation, we have the power in ourselves to be free anytime we want to stand up and be free and say no more. So once again, I am begging you, I am pleading with you, I am praying for you to wake up from this slumber, from this sleep, and realize the power that is in you. We don't have to wait to receive our freedom papers. We are human beings. You are a human being. You are a person. You are a live, living being on this earth. No one was born above you. No one has the right to be above you or set you free. You have that unalienable right in yourself. You have that all in yourself to be free. But will you make that choice to be free? Will you give up the greenback dollar that is backed by nothing, absolutely nothing anymore? They might tell you it was backed by gold back in the day, but it's not backed by any gold. It's not backed by any resources, because pretty much America don't have any resources. They don't have any gold anymore. All the gold we had is over in England, and the Queen has it. It's not backed by it anymore. That's why they are like paper IOUs. And it's not even physical paper anymore. They didn't put it as just a number in a computer now. You got $1 million? Go to any bank and say, I want $1 million in cash. They won't have it in the bank. They're gonna tell you to wait. Give us a couple days. We have to print it. We gotta get it from other banks and collect it for you, and you can have it in a week. They don't have it in the banks. It's very rarely that they do. Only time that they do is when they're moving money. They might move money from a bunch of banks and put them in one bank for a minute while they're taking it and putting it somewhere else. But on a normal day, most banks don't even have it. You are only working and being enslaved for a number on a computer, a number in social media, on Wi-Fi, on the web, from computer to computer. We are still slaves, and we are all still waiting for that documentation to set us free. We no longer, we never needed it, and we have to set our minds to know we don't need that. We don't need them to tell us we are free. We don't need them to tell us our history. We don't need them to tell us our future. We don't need them to give us permission to unify. We don't need them to buy land. We don't need them for, we don't. We were born free. We were born free to do whatever we want. Wake up, my people. It is time to unify. All my brothers and sisters, it is time to unify and be ready to stand up and do whatever is willing to take to live your free life. To live your free life. To be ready to do whatever it takes to live your free life. Are you willing to do that individually? Are we willing to do that as a group? Are we willing to do that as a people? Are we willing to do that as a nation? I pray that we are. And I don't want to pray for sometime in the future. I don't want to pray that it's going to come one day. We need it so bad that it should have been done yesterday. It should have been done yesterday. To all my brothers and sisters out there, stop waiting to receive a letter of freedom from our oppressors. Stop waiting to be treated equal on the plantation that you live in. The plantation of America. Or we can continue to live on this plantation. We can continue for the people, the small few of us that are trying to be free and running through the Underground Railroad and fighting our brothers that's snitching and telling on us. We can be the outside slave working in the fields and fighting and having an argument against our in-house slaves. We can continue to do that for many, many years to come. Or we can unify. Whether you're an in-house slave, you're a field slave, if you're a slave running for your freedom, or if you're a slave that's snitching on your own slavery brothers, or just thinking of ways to belittle your own brother, we still love you. You are still part of us. No matter how you see yourself, you are still part of our nation. It is time to unify and fight. Not for freedom. Fight for our lives. Not for freedom. Not for a piece of paper that say we can do something. Or we are allowed to do something. But for our lives, because our lives are being taken each and every day. It's just a message from me to my loved ones. Hopefully to make you think and your thoughts make you change as a person. But this is your boy, strong, emotionally strong, mentally strong, physically strong. Peace, love, and blessings.